An Oxford House alumnus, he has 20 years of recovery, which began with his 2.5-year membership at Oxford House, Poland Park in Richmond, Virginia. Shortly after moving out in 2004, he was hired as an outreach worker. Since that time, he has guided Virginia's community of Oxford houses in forming one of the first state associations, creating an annual state convention with attendance of over 350, and expanding from 55 to 155 houses and over 1,250 beds. At the 2013 World Convention, he was the recipient of Oxford House's annual Founders Award. He has a bachelor's degree from Georgetown University and earned a master's degree from Virginia Commonwealth University in 2016. He lives in Richmond, Virginia. And here's Paul Stevens.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is the first time in almost 2 years that I've actually had to speak to human beings in front of me. It's weird how suddenly I'm nervous about that again. Got really comfortable just doing it from my office. Okay. So, like she mentioned, I got a graduate degree. It was 20 years after my undergraduate degree. For my undergraduate degree, I was more of a traditional student, although the fact that it took me 7 years and it was in the midst of my growing addiction was probably not traditional, but I did go straight from high school into college. And then, of course, more addiction, some recovery, and decided many years later to go back and get a master's degree in sociology. But instead of really talking about my experience with that, and I was an outreach worker at that time, I'd already moved out of a house, I was an alumnus. My degree is in sociology. We love research, we love statistics, so what I'd like to do actually is just kind of talk more in general about some aspects of returning to school and the benefits of education. And I don't use PCs, so make sure I get this right. Okay. Obviously, the primary thing we all think about or hear about when we think about the benefits of education are financial ones. And here's just a little bit of information about that. I mean, and this average annual incomes from 2004, the proportions are still pretty accurate today despite the cost of living. College graduates earn an average of almost $55,000, high school graduates $30,000, and high school dropouts $22,000. Lifetime family income with college degree is $1.4 million higher than with a high school degree. And granted, that's over a lifetime, but it's $1.4 million. Over career, college graduates earn an average of 65% more than high school graduates, and individuals with advanced degrees earn 2 to 3 times high school graduates. I'm not sure that's true of me, but I work for Oxford House. Employment. And there's actually kind of a funny joke about that. There's like an employer about to interview a prospective, employee, and he's at this cool hip startup. He's kind of a young employer, and he's like, "Listen, man, forget everything you learned in college. You're not going to need it here at all." And the prospective employee looks and goes, "I didn't go to college." And then he's like, "Well, I'm sorry, then I guess you're not qualified to work here." And it is kind of like that. I mean, like a lot of people, they think about what they learned in college and they don't ever use it. But I would argue that they use some of it, which is that they use the fact that they're learning how to learn, and they're learning how to do some other things that are very valuable that may not have to do with the specifics of their degree. So as you can see, employment is significantly different between high school grads with no college and college students. In fact, it's typically about twice as much. The unemployment rate is twice as much for people that did not graduate college. And every $1 spent on college education produces almost $35 in increased lifetime income. That is a really great return on investment. But there is more to life than money. And there are a lot of, and I'm going to summarize a bunch of different research studies and really not even get into the weeds at all about the numbers and just kind of the highlight of the results of it. So compared to high school graduates, college graduates have longer lifespans. The death rate is 2.5 times higher for high school dropouts than it is for graduates. They have better access to health care. You can see the percentage of people that are offered insurance through their employer, and it's almost half for advanced degrees and as low as 1 in 4 for high school graduates. Better dietary and health practices for college graduates compared to those that just graduated high school. Lower rates of depression. Greater economic stability and security. More prestigious employment and greater job satisfaction. Less dependency on government assistance. Greater community service and leadership, right? We're all about community service, volunteer work, that's our thing too. More self-confidence, less criminal activity and incarceration. High school dropouts are 3.5 times more likely to be arrested than graduates. Although I can speak from personal experience, even if you have a degree from Georgetown University, they will arrest you for heroin distribution. Greater internet access, believe it or not. College graduates have greater internet access. Greater attendance at live performances, greater participation in leisure and artistic activities, more book purchases. Greater knowledge of government and higher voting rates. That's kind of an important one, and I'll touch on that in a second. And I don't know, I just threw a couple quotes up here that kind of, I think, summarize a point I want to make, which is that I really do believe that education is not just about earning more money. It's not just about financial stability. You know, Ruth Simmons says here, I came to understand the value of education, not just to enable me to make a good living, but to enable me to make a worthwhile life. I mean, I'm certain that's what all of us are here in recovery, here in Oxford House, here at the World Convention to learn more about. Change is the end result of all true learning. And, that's certainly what we're about here, focused on change, focused on changing our lives. And learning is kind of how we do that, whether it's learning about the world outside or learning about other people or learning about ourselves. The aim of education is knowledge, not of facts, but of values. And I think sometimes, that's lost on anti-intellectuals. They think that it's just statistics and information, but really the more information and knowledge you have of the world and the people in it and yourself, you have a stronger understanding of your own value system and your own ethics. And education can help change the world. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world, said Nelson Mandela. He was most certainly right about that. And this is actually, I learned after I put this on here, perhaps an apocryphal quote from Thomas Jefferson. Apocryphal means it might actually not be something he said. I left it in here anyway. An educated citizenry is a vital requisite for our survival as a free people. I for as long as I've been alive, I cannot say that there has ever been a time where we more desperately in this country need education for the purposes of maintaining our democracy and our freedom. I think that you've heard the phrase, I'm sure a lot, it's been bouncing around for the last 5, 6, 7 years, that we have post-truth politics or a post-truth society that we live in. Post-truth means relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. And education teaches us how to discern between truth and propaganda. It teaches us how to better understand issues so that we cannot be the ones that are manipulated in how we view the world or how we view politics based on messaging, because the messaging out there is clearly, for many years now, been targeted at manipulating us into thinking one thing or another that may or may not be true. We need to become critical consumers of our own democracy and our own politics. And, even if you go to school for science, you will benefit in this regard from that education because you'll learn about how to discern truth from fiction, theory from fact, and things of that nature. So it really doesn't matter what kind of degree you're talking about. It will benefit you as far as becoming a better citizen. So I would argue that because we are people in recovery and because we are members of Oxford House or alumni of Oxford House, we've learned some lessons that actually give us a leg up in education to students that are just coming out of high school. Some of those. To hell with stigma. I first used the word that started with F, but I decided that was not appropriate. But we know the deal with stigma, right? We know the deal with the stigma of addicts. We know how sometimes that can become self-stigmatization. And I think that happens a lot with non-traditional students. We get really up in our heads about the fact that it's been 10 years since we were in high school, or 20 years since we're in high school, or we're too old, or we're going to go into a classroom surrounded by a bunch of 18-year-old teeny boppers and not know what to do or not know how to fit in. Don't believe the hype, seriously. 40% of all undergraduates at this point in the United States are non-traditional students, and the rate of non-traditional students enrolling in school is increasing at twice the rate of traditional students. So really, at some point, probably not far from now, non-traditional students will be the majority in most colleges and universities. Best way to fight stigma, be the example. We learned that in our recovery, right? The best way to show the neighbors that an Oxford house is not full of psychos that are going to destroy their neighborhood is to just be an example of what we want them to believe we are. I think that the same is true when it comes to education. We can't do it alone. Well, we certainly have learned that message very thoroughly in our recovery and in Oxford House. Mutual support groups have taught us that. You know, I think about sometimes some of these professors I had at Georgetown when I was too busy smoking weed and tripping on acid to go to office hours or most of the time even class. And they were brilliant. I mean, they were the most amazing, accomplished, brilliant people, and I just squandered that opportunity. So if you do go back to school, take that lesson that we can't do it alone. Network with other students, network with your professors, show up for, office hours. There's a concept in sociology called the strength of weak ties, which is really about the idea that we thrive in life not because of our closest connections, our friends and our family, but the next step out, the broader network of people that we know, our associates, the people at work that can tell us about this thing, or the people in our home group that know about a job, and that people are very successful and they have lots of weak ties. All right, I gotta hustle this up. Communication and constructive criticism. I think that goes without saying. If we had not learned a little about communication and constructive criticism, we would probably have not lasted very long in our Oxford house, and we might not have even lasted very long in recovery. And accountability. That certainly is something we all learned, and that is true in education. It's important for us to be accountable to people outside of ourselves. I think probably one of the best things that we've learned in recovery and in Oxford House is self-awareness. I think about the idea I had no idea who I was when I was 18. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea about the world, and I was supposed to be picking a career. And, we have the benefit of time and learning about ourselves. And I think that's a big advantage that you have at this point if you go back to school. All right, my last point is I just kind of want to mention collegiate recovery programs, because this is a really amazing, super cool development in the last 5 to 10 years. That there are these programs at a lot of colleges for recovery, institutionally sanctioned and supported program for students in recovery from addiction seeking a degree in higher education. The goal is to offer the chance for students in recovery from addiction to experience the opportunities that higher education offers both in the college environment and after, by providing support, preventing a return to use, and promoting academic performance. I'll just kind of skim through some of the aspects here of what a collegiate recovery program is. They do vary a little bit. Some of them focus just on the peer support. Some of them, offer additional supports through clinicians. Some incorporate academic advising. Some offer Oxford House. We actually have collegiate Oxford Houses. First example, the best example is at UNC Chapel Hill, but that's increasing too, where there are a lot of universities and colleges where there's an Oxford House right on campus or right off campus that you could live in and go to school. And 90% graduation rate for people that are participating in collegiate recovery programs compared to 61% overall. So if you're involved in a collegiate recovery program, if you're a person in recovery going to school, you will do better. There's 143 of them in the US, but they're growing very fast. If you're interested in finding out whether a school you're thinking about has one, you can go to this website. It's the Association of Recovery in Higher Education. And I think I will wrap up by just saying going back to school will make you a better citizen and a better human being. Be a lifelong learner.
That was a really great presentation. Thank you again, Paul Stevens. One more time. So our next panelist, you ladies probably had the pleasure of hearing her at our women's conference on Thursday. So she's going to share her experience with going back to school while being a part of Oxford House. We have Christina Sanders. Christina moved into Oxford House in 2013 and is an alumnus of Oxford House Taylor Lane in North Carolina. She began working for Oxford House on March 1st, 2017 as an outreach worker in North Carolina. She is a National Certified Peer Support Specialist. She just graduated in May of 2021 from Carteret Community College with an associate's degree in Applied Science Human Service Technology, a certificate in Human Service Technology, Substance Abuse, and she is currently pursuing her bachelor's degree in Human Services from Lease McRae College. And here's Christina Sanders.
Okay, so again, I'm sorry if y'all heard me in the women's conference. I hate to have to give it to you again, but here we go. So my name is Christina, and I'm a woman in recovery, and what that means for me is I've not had a drink or drug since January 7th, 2016. So some of the things that have been taught to me by going back to school is to walk through fear, because this is very scary. Just when I'm asked, I got to do it. I try to always do it. That age was just a number. Like Paul Stevens said, I'm in classes with 18-year-olds, and I'm thinking, Jesus. What am I supposed to do when they're 17 and can write 12 paragraphs? And I'm like, I don't have that much to say. Time management. Being an outreach worker and living in Oxford House, you never know whenever there could be an emergency meeting where you have to be at a convention. So I had to make sure I always worked ahead, or, made sure that I was not pushing the limit on my time limits. So a little bit about me. I was supposed to graduate in 1995. I quit in 1994, my 12th grade year. I was too busy partying. I was always a drinker, never used any substances. In 2000, I got my GED from the local community college, and then I decided I wanted to be a teacher. I'm not quite sure why I decided I wanted to be a teacher, because I'm not really that great with children. But that's what I thought I wanted to do when I grew up. And I was married. My husband had a great job. I did not have to work. So eventually I needed to get a job, and so I got a job at Applebee's, and I found drugs. So in 2000 I found drugs, or drugs found me, whichever one supposed to happen. And I went downhill very, very quickly. I was charged with 10 felonies and convicted of 2. And I say that because don't think because you have a background that you can't get a degree. I thought my education was over, but turns out in 2013, when I came into Oxford House, there was a different plan for me. I liked helping people. I liked, getting resources. I liked, helping them find the things that helped me, I guess is the best way to put it. And so I decided I wanted to go to school for human services. In 2015, I started at 15, I don't know. I started at the local community college, and not long after that, I was hired for Oxford House. And about 10 months later, I relapsed. I was not doing the things I needed to do to stay sober, and I had to drop out of school. After a year, I was only out there 2 months, but after a year, I got rehired. So that was, don't ever give up on your dreams. In 2017, I was rehired back, and I decided I wanted to get my degree. So in 2018, I started going to the local community college to get my human services degree. So while then COVID hit, I had to do over 300 hours of internship during COVID. That was a real pleasure. I don't know if any of you guys know, so my direct supervisor is Keith Gibson, and his wife is Kathleen Gibson. So anything I do, she always knew. And she always told me, do what you need to do, but get your work done first. So that was always in my head. She always pushed me to do what I needed to do, just do my work first. I graduated this May with, like she said, my human services degree, my certificate, my substance abuse certificate. And after a lot of praying and some advice from my, what is she called? My counselor, and like the numbers that Paul gave, after a degree, the amount of money that I would make differently would be the difference in what I would be paying. So I decided to start for my bachelor's degree in August. So now I'm going to leave McRae. And that's about it. That's about all I have to say. I'm short and quick and to the point, so that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again, Christina. It was even better the second time around. So yeah, right? Okay. So if you're in this room, you're either in school or thinking about it pretty hard, right? So if anybody decides to go to eye doctor school, please hit me up because I can't read any of this. I'm getting old. Good Lord. I might come to that. All right, so our next panelist, I just had the pleasure of meeting in person today for about 2 seconds, but we've been talking and texting a little bit over the past few days, and his story is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. We have Scott Cumming. He is a trial attorney. He's an alumnus of the McCanty Oxford House in Bend, Oregon, and a longtime friend of Bill W. 8 years ago, at the age of 24, he moved into the McCartney Oxford House after graduating from rehab. Gotta love graduation from rehab. For the 6th time. During his time at the house, he served as house president and chapter chair, and somewhere along the line, he learned a new way to live. After a year in the house, he enrolled in his local community college. There, he got his first taste of success in a long time. Another year later, he moved out of the house to Eugene, Oregon to attend the University of Oregon. At the University of Oregon, he studied and tutored ancient Latin, published research in environmental justice, and graduated summa cum laude in the top 2% of his class with a bachelor's degree in environmental policy and a full-ride scholarship to the University of Oregon School of Law. In law school, he published research in the Oregon Law Review, He served as the managing editor of the Oregon Law Review and as the liaison to the Oregon Trial Lawyers Association. During both his summers in law school, he clerked for the president of the Oregon Trial Lawyers Association, Tim Williams, who he now works for as an associate attorney. In the fall of 2018, he clerked for the Federal District Court, and in the fall of 2019, he clerked for the Oregon Court of Appeals. He graduated law school with a nomination to the Order of the Coif. What's Quaff? See, I need to go get some more education. The Quaff, the Order of the Quaff, in the top 5% of his class. Throughout his time at the University of Oregon, both as an undergraduate and as a law student, he organized with other students in recovery to form a collegiate recovery center on campus. This endeavor began with himself and 2 other students in recovery meeting once per week in a broom closet in the student union. And it eventually became a fully funded university program with a clubhouse, staff, interns, several AA meetings, and national networking opportunities. He got to meet hundreds of students in recovery from all over the United States. And he believes that students in recovery offer perspectives and talents that no other students can. So let's hear it from him, Scott Cumming.
All right. So I'll start out by trying to answer the questions that are probably on all of your minds, and then I have a couple questions of my own, and then I'll start talking, I guess. So first of all, yes, I have a rap sheet. Yes, there are felonies. No, it wasn't some Mickey Mouse shit. And yeah. And so I think that should answer those questions. Now for the questions of mine. So how many people out here are in school already? All right. And how many people are here because they're thinking about going back to school? Yeah. Okay. And how many people here know what they want to be when they grow up? All right, so half, maybe a quarter. So I guess whether you don't know or whether you do think you know, how many are thinking about that choice And take a minute and think about this before you answer. So how many of you are thinking about that choice in terms of like what you can still do given your background? All right. And so my goal today is to basically give you some maybe reckless advice to to not think about it that way, to pursue your calling, because I think that's what I did. And just so you know, like nobody gave me permission to do that. Nobody told me it was going to work out. Like, in fact, like people are like, really? You think? And I'm not going to say it's going to be fair or easy either. Like if you follow his advice, it's probably not going to be. And that's unfortunate, but like I don't think it's ever going to change until people do it. More of us do it, and we're the people. We're the gatekeepers, or we're at least part of it. Like, the board at bar examiners sure gave me a hard time, and now I'm gunning for a spot on the board of bar examiners in Oregon, and I think in a couple of years here I'm going to be a bar examiner, and so I'll be someone in recovery is on the other side. But anyway, so I think that like I've met and worked with a lot of people who have some calling like I did to the law, and don't feel like they can or should pursue it because somebody's not going to let them or they just can't. And I meet a lot of people who live like that, and I feel like if you have a calling, it's like a spiritual thing, and I feel like if you let your shame or your fear tell you not to pursue it, then it's like letting shame and fear be your higher power. And it's a spiritual program, and I know like how spiritually fulfilled that I felt in pursuing my calling, and not just like in achieving it either. It wasn't easy. It's like every step along the way, I kind of just had to rely on my higher power, my program, and just go through the motions and keep growing along the way until I got to the point where I'm at today, where I can say that I was successful. But that whole time I didn't know, but also that whole time, like things that needed to come into place along the way, they did. And I learned and grew a lot. And I don't think I would feel as fulfilled today if I didn't. And yeah, so the other point is that you probably can't do it alone, but you don't have to do it alone. There's my school, like I got introduced. We started a Collegiate Recovery Center, which is, we were a member of the Association of Recovery and Higher Education. So we did all that. Those national networking opportunities were through the Association of Recovery and Higher Education. I think got touched on the statistics of we have higher GPAs than our peers, students in recovery. We have significantly higher graduation rates, and those are statistics that universities want. That's actually how we got funding at the University of Oregon, is we took that study to them and said, look, and here's 3 of us. And so they gave us a ton of money. Like, our clubhouse, we had snacks from Costco, staff, interns, the whole deal. And there's that, safe space. This is such a loaded word, but I mean, it was a safe space. It was, and there was times when I was at the university, I needed that. Just crawl up there and just lay on the couch and take a nap or something. Like, just be around other people that are in recovery. And so that kind of thing is available. Like, I mean, it wasn't available when I first started. Just made it available, found some other students in recovery and made it happen. And so everywhere you go, you'll find a friend, I think. Unless you're like really, really, really unlikable. But, I mean, you kind of have to like anybody who's in recovery at a certain point, right? Or anybody who's even trying to be. If you have a desire to stop drinking or using, like, I kind of have to be your friend. I've met people who I didn't like, and then they confided in me that they they had a desire to stop drinking or using, and I was like, oh God, because now I have to love them. And so, I mean, that's something that you'll get to carry with you wherever you go, and you'll find other people, even if you don't know them now. And you can call me if you want my contact information or whatever. Email me. I'll help you. If I wake up and you call me at 3 a.m. and you need help studying, I'll do it. Whatever you need. I can give you some really good advice generally about how to do good in undergrad. I can give you some great advice about how to do good in law school. And that was one of the roles I got to just gratuitously make up when I was particularly in law school, because I got to mentor younger law students, and actually had some younger law students in recovery who started at school, and like, I don't know, I just had this desire to make students in recovery shine all the time. And so, I mean, I helped them do really well in their classes. Just gave them the benefit of my experience. I mean, law school is one of those things where, like, nobody's going to tell you all the secrets. It's kind of like your professors won't tell you, and you got to know. And so you either learn that from like reading books in the library like I did, or you learn it from, your dad who went to law school, or your brother, or something like that. And so, I mean, that was something that I got to pass on to other students who are in recovery who didn't have that from elsewhere. And yeah, so that was a great experience. And I think that you all should not limit yourselves at all in terms of like what you can do in recovery, because I think that you can do it. In the end, I mean, people probably will try and stop you from doing it. They probably will try to exclude you, and they'll treat you like a second-class citizen. It's messed up, but in the end, like, I think that you're right and they're wrong, and in the end, I found as an attorney, as a trial lawyer, like, if you're real and you're right, in the end, you're gonna win,
All right, well, again, thank you so much, Todd. He came all the way from Oregon to share his story with us, and it's amazing. Thank you. All right, and last but not least, we have Ryan Clevenger. Ryan is a person in long-term recovery. What that means to him is I still need an eye doctor and a speech therapist. Okay, what that means to him is that he hasn't used a mood or mind-altering substance since October 2nd, 2017. Yes. His involvement first started as a resident of Oxford House, Atreides and Garland. Atreides? Atreides. Okay, cool. Oxford House Atreides in Garland, Texas, where he was given a second chance at life. He became an employee of Oxford House on October 1st, 2019 as an outreach worker. He has a passion for learning and believes you should never stop reaching for the stars. He's a certified peer support specialist for Wisconsin. He's enrolled in the bachelor's program for social work at the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee. He's currently working on his National Recovery Coach certification and has an associate's degree in culinary arts from the Art Institute of Dallas. He's a member of NADAC, and he wants to become an AODA counselor for the VA. And here's Ryan Clevenger.
Hey guys, my name's Ryan Clevenger. I'm a person in long-term recovery. What that means to me is that I haven't had to use a mood or mind-altering substance since October 2nd, 2017. Basically, all it means is that I haven't made a mistake. I'm human, and I'm just like one of you guys. So let me find this little PowerPoint.
It's on the desktop. I'm sorry, I should have queued it up.
This one? Nope. This one right here.
Yeah, that's you.
Okay. There we go. All right. So somebody asked my questions for me. That's what happens when you go last. People start answering your questions for you. So again, the one question that I had to ask myself was, what did I really want to do when I grew up? And that's the question that you have to ask yourself is, what do you want to do when you grow up? Some of you guys may be new into recovery. Some of you guys may be long-termers, been in an Oxford House for a long, long time. I have the pleasure of being an alumni from 2 different states. And it's really, really cool. I was in the military, born and bred into the Marine Corps. Was in the Marine Corps for 8 years of my life. Watched my mom get her bachelor's degree. Watched my dad get his associate's degree. Watched my sisters get their degrees in teaching. Watched my oldest sister get her master's degree in special education. Here I am, the black sheep. The one that's been to prison twice. The one that's been arrested countless times. The one that has 12 different felonies on his record. And I'm here to tell you guys that it doesn't matter how many felonies you have on there. If you have a dream, keep going for it.
Yeah.
Don't ever stop learning. Don't let anybody tell you that you cannot achieve your goal, because you can. You guys are all living proof that if you just stick to it, you will achieve. I know for me, the greatest moment so far in my life has been my recovery. And I think that accounts to all of you guys, because without the newcomer, without the person that's coming from, the person that's coming in behind me and me giving back to them, like I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Because remember, it's always about one person helping another person. And that's what this dream is all about. Let's fast forward to 2020, guys. COVID happens, right? We were all stuck at home. A lot of us were going, well, what do I do with my life? That was a question that I had to ask myself in 2020. As a new outreach, I had about 6 months as being an outreach worker, and my boss was like, hey, Ryan, you got to fill 8 hours of your day. And I was like, how the hell do I fill 8 hours of my day? I can't organize my computer that long. I can't watch Netflix for 24 hours a day. So I was like, you know what? Let me figure out what I can do that has to do with my job and then also has to do with addiction. So here's some resources that I found. So if you guys go on to some of this stuff right here, you can go to the nadac.org. You can go to COSAP. These are all different things right here. Doors to Wellbeing, the Copeland Center. These are all different sites that you guys can go on. If you want to get on there and you want to get continuing educations, classes and certifications, these are the places to go to it. Let me take you back in time. I graduated high school in 1998. I graduated with a 3.5 GPA. I slept through most of my classes. I was an alcoholic then, and I didn't really know it. I didn't know I was an alcoholic until I moved into an Oxford House. So go figure, right? I just thought drugs were my problem. I didn't think alcohol was my problem. So, like, don't let that fool you. I drank like the best of them. I went into the military. I had my VA benefits for going back to the school. I can tell you that the first college that I went to was a community college, and one of my teachers was a nun. And let me just tell you, my ego was as big as this room. I got into an argument with a nun. Seriously, I got into an argument with a nun, and then I got sent to the dean's office, and I got in an argument with the dean too. That's how long school lasted for me. So I was accumulating student debt. And then, the military, if you're in the military for any length of time, you get VA benefits where they will pay for it. Well, they stopped paying for it. I was partying most of my school, stopped showing up for class, just thought I had life, I could whip life. Here I am, 18, 19 years old, in the Marine Corps, and didn't think anything could stop me. Not a bullet, not a needle, not a bottle, nothing. So I ended up getting arrested. In 2009, I got arrested. I went to prison, 2.5 years. While I was in prison, again, I had to start looking at my life and going, well, what do I really want to do? So I started taking college classes while I was in prison. And the only thing that I was ever really good at was working in a restaurant. I started working in a restaurant when I was 15 years old. I worked just about every position that there probably was, including front of the house. But I always had a passion for cooking. So when I got out of prison, of course, the first thing I thought was, hey, I can go back and work in a restaurant. They don't give a crap about my felonies. They don't care how much trouble I went to or how much I drank. So, and that's one place that I could probably do drugs too, that they really wouldn't give a shit. So I got my degree in culinary arts. I graduated in the top 10% of my class. I can tell you that I was at the bar studying, where we'd go play darts afterwards and pool. But I graduated. I graduated in the top 10% of my class. But I started accumulating student debt. And everybody knows that when you're a chef, you don't quite make a lot of money when you come out of there. So I started off at $10 an hour, working 60, 70 hours a week. And then, that time comes where you got to start paying it back. I said, yeah, right. They're not going to do anything to me. They will never do anything to me. Well, I was extremely wrong. Let me just tell you guys. If you get into student debt, they will start taking your taxes from you. That's just a little secret. And again, COVID happened, and they were like, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. And I was like, all right, it's time to file my taxes. I haven't filed in 3 years. Let me get all my money back. Addict thinking, right? But the one thing that I can tell you guys is that I did differently. Yes, that was my addict mentality, that, hey, I'm going to go ahead and file my taxes. Let me just tell you guys, they took my taxes anyways. It didn't matter. But if you guys go to the top one right there, you guys see it's myeddebt.edu. If you guys go on there, it will help you start making restitution. Part of our tradition, part of the 12 steps, right, says that we have to start making amends, correct? I'm here to tell you guys, for the first time in my life, I was accepted to a major university. I got scholarships, I got grants, and guess what I also got? I got to be able to use a student loan because I started making restitution back to that. They take your annual income from your taxes that you filed, and then they base a percentage off that. Once you make a consistent amount of payment every single month, you start making 6 consistent payments, they will allow you to be able to get student loans. So some of you guys may be sitting in the same boat that I was. Some of you guys may be in debt to your eyeballs and trying to figure out how to do this. This is exactly how you do it right there. My payments are $26 a month, but that is allowing me to go back to school. And after 9 payments, here's the cool thing, guys, because I didn't realize this. You know where that goes to? If you stop paying your student loans, and if you just say, it'll never catch up to me, it hurt my credit score. So some of you guys may be wanting your credit score to go back up. Well, this is one way to help your credit score go back up, because after 9 times of making on-time payments every single month, and you sign a piece of paper, they will actually say that your debt is current. So it will no longer be a derogatory mark against your credit. And again, we're trying to make our lives better, and we're trying to amend our lives, right? So when we start doing these certain things, a lot of things, start opening up. I was accepted to a major university. I go to the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee, starting the day after we get back. September 7th, it would be the first day that I attend school since I was 32 years old. I'm 41 now. So again, being a non-traditional student, you get all kinds of little benefits, all right, guys? So I actually got to apply for a scholarship of being over 40 years old. And I got it. So it's a really, really cool and great feeling, guys, when you get to go back to school and you pick what you want to do. Again, I'm going to go back for social work because you guys have made this possible for me. All my residents that I help oversee and that I guide have made this possible for me. You guys have showed me what I wanted to do in life. I was born and bred into the military, and that's exactly where I want to go. I want to go back to the military, and I want to give back to the men and women that fight for this country and fight for all of y'all's freedom, and that come back with substance use disorder and mental health issues. I want to be their guiding light because I think that's part of what we should do. When you grow up in a military family and you get to see the goods, the bads, and the uglies, and you are part of the ugly, you want to be that person that just brings somebody back up. Again, these are some of the stuff right here, right there. If you guys are in the military, past military people, you guys still do qualify for benefits. That's why I have it there on the bottom. So it is the va.gov website for your educational benefits. If any of you guys are currently in the military or have served in the military, don't give up on some of that stuff because I was actually on a call for the county, and I actually ran into some people that were talking about how they help vets get back into school. That's how I got interested in it. I was on a county call with a coalition, and they were talking about this, and I'm on their chat. We're on the Zoom call because everybody had to do Zoom. And I was just blowing the chat up because I was like, oh my God, I want to do this. How can I get back into school? What are you guys going to do? I'm talking about 100 miles an hour. I'm just typing on this chat. And our representative from the county was like, I think Ryan has a question for you guys. And I think he needs to get your number and stuff like that. And I'm telling you guys, it's a really cool relationship that I have with them and that they have with the vets. So if any of you guys are prior military, don't stop reaching. You guys are the future. Regardless of what anybody thinks, going back to school will be one of the best decisions you'll ever do in life. So if you're kind of on the fence of what you want to do, just sit down, put it on a piece of paper exactly what you guys think that you want to do in life. What means the most to you? That's what I had to do because I can go to social work and it just broadens a whole different spectrum. Because as this gentleman over here is talking about going to law school, did you know that part of social work actually has to do with law? So you can actually take a separate part of that and go there if you want to. I never thought about going and doing law school. I thought because I was a felon, it was out. And you can ask my girlfriend, you can ask the residents and stuff like that. Trust me, I can talk. And I can argue and I can berate somebody on my point of what I want to do. Never thought of that. So I would actually be that one person that goes on there and argues with the guy on the board and gets my point home. But I like it.
Yeah, luckily I had a really good, so I worked in federal court for a federal judge, and I had him by my side through the way, and he gave me some really good advice not to do that.
Oh, see? But again, guys, he did have a great point. Sit down. Out of all of you guys that are in this room, you guys all want to go back to school. And some of you guys that are already in school, it all starts with just a thought. It starts with just a dream, okay? And never stop dreaming, guys. If you are thinking about getting your GED, go back to school. It's just as simple as going back to school. If you're worried about being tired, you know what? When I was on the streets and I was sticking a needle in my arm and I was running through the snow and the sun that was 115 degrees, I was tired. This is nothing. This is expanding my mind. This is making myself great. Going back to school, you're not going to do it for anybody else but yourself. And remember, don't ever stop reaching for the stars, because this is exactly where you guys were meant to be. Each one of you sitting in this room is a miracle, okay? And you guys should pat yourself on the back, because you guys are living proof that we do recover, okay? Thank you guys. You guys have a great day.
Thank you, Ryan, and thanks again to all our panelists. Okay, so it's not quite over yet. We're going to open it up for questions. And I personally have been inspired today. As I shared, I'm back in school as a non-traditional student. And it's just, but I also have a 17-year-old who's looking at colleges and doing all that right now. So it's kind of been, it's been different, you know, me and my part of the journey and her part of the journey. But the cool thing about being where we are, regardless of age, just being in this room, being in recovery, getting to this point, is we know we can do it. You know, we've done the biggest thing we will ever do in our lives by finding recovery. So school is just icing on the cake, you know. So if you're here, you're either contemplating it, or you're doing it. So congratulations to all of y'all for even being on whatever step in that journey that you are. So we're going to open it up for questions. Please do a single file line at the microphone, and you can address your questions to the whole panel or to one specific panelist, okay? Thank you.
My name is Sean, Kansas Oxford House, Chapter 1. I just recently started school again, and my biggest struggle right now, everything's online, and my biggest struggle is like my time management and trying to figure out how to, you know, get that right. And also, I'm doing really good in my classes right now. This week I'm struggling a little bit because of the convention and trying to make sure everything's in order. So I'm already trying to get down on myself about not getting everything done correctly or perfectly, you know what I mean? I know I don't need to be a perfectionist, but it's like trying to screw with my mind. How do you guys keep that kind of stuff from happening and working on your time management and getting that all figured out?
It's working.
Can you guys all hear me? Yeah. Okay. So, with your time management, it's really easy to get aside that you have to set a goal, man. You know, we have the greatest technology in our hands right now, right here. It's got a calendar in there. It can help you stay on task. Remember, when you guys like are doing any kind of presentations or speaking, we use timers, right? So you can time out your time management. You can set alarms. You can set different things like that will help you remember that sort of thing. Also, a piece of paper and a pen. Write out what your actual schedule is for the day and stick to that. When we are trying to do too much at once, the greatest saying I ever heard was, how do you eat an elephant? Right? How do we eat an elephant, guys? Exactly, right? Don't overload yourself, because what will happen if you overload yourself? You're going to fall off, right? Just take it one step at a time. That's all you can do, is one step at a time.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a great solution to that to this day, even as a regional manager. I'm a terrible time manager, but my mom once told me something, and she's actually in recovery herself, and so perhaps she learned it there, but she said that, and a lot of problems with time management is about taking on too much, but a lot of it's about procrastination. And she was like, procrastination is a form of self-sabotage. So when I'm struggling with that, I just try to remind myself that what I'm doing by putting that off is sabotaging myself. And I don't want to do that today in recovery. So that sort of inspires me to figure out the time management stuff. And I agree with Ryan. There's an amazing amount of digital sort of resources to teach you time management. There's a dozen different systems, you know, that they'll want you to buy the book or whatever, but they're good. They work. You know, I think those systems are good things to try out.
Hi, I'm Veronica. I'm from Spokane, Washington. Sorry, I'm short. I guess I just wanted to thank you guys for coming here. I'm a high school dropout. I'm a junkie, 10 years. Just really, really terrible life. And I always really admired education because I never thought that I was an intelligent person. And all it took is one of my roommates to suggest to go to college prep. They're like, it's $25. You can, check it out if you like it, whatever. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to try this out. And I just made honor roll last quarter. So, so I'm doing pretty good. My best friend and also my chairperson, I'm her vice chair. She's pursuing law school. Boyfriend's pursuing law school. I'm okay with the undergraduate, which I never even knew what that meant before. So I think it's really awesome. I think 5 out of 8 of us in our house now are going to school. And I'm sharing that experience. Just try college prep. Try it out. See what it's like, if it's for you, if it's not. You're in a house full of women that love and support you. If you ever need any help, we're all here to help guide each other, workout tips. Let's sit up in the living room, do homework, things like that. So anyways, I'm just really grateful that you guys are here. So thank you.
Hello, I'm Joe. And it's funny that you guys mentioned the Collegiate program. I had just found out about 2 weeks ago after enrolling in school and getting into this program at OSU OKC that I'm in a Collegiate program. And we had a guy come talk to us about Collegiate programs and how he started one at OU. That's I'm an OSU student in a Collegiate program. I am Chapter 4 fundraising chair, and I am also a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. My sobriety date is July 26th of 2018. Thank you. So a lot of things that I'm surprised I've never thought I could do again. But the one thing I wanted to ask you guys is, like, what do you say to somebody who, isn't, because you were talking about about their callings, and so, like, through this program that I'm in, we get our PRSS license and certificate, and we get a whole bunch of other certificates. But so I feel like my true calling is computer sciences. What do you say to somebody that, doesn't necessarily know, I guess, if their calling's right for them? Or if it's the right thing to do, but they feel it in their heart?
Conscious contact with your higher power. Do the steps.
Okay. That's
Hey, wait, I have something for that. So, back to my daughter who can't figure out what she wants to be when she grows up because she's only 17 and shouldn't quite have to. Everybody, when they find out she just started her senior year, just turned 17, they're like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And she will leave the store or wherever people are asking her. She's like, I hate that. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And this was my advice to her. You find the part of the little piece of the world, the corner of your world that's where people are broken, where there's room for improvement, where there's room to improve through beauty or through helping or through service, and you do your part. But she is not a touchy-feely people person. She's not going to go to social work. She's not, she wants to be a graphic artist, and in a way that is bringing beauty, that's bringing entertainment, that is helping someone somewhere. So just because what you want to do isn't necessarily recovery related or, oriented towards the helping or service professions, it does not diminish the fact that you're adding something of value to the world. And if that's what your calling is, that's what your calling is. And I would rock it out and go for it.
If you don't enjoy what you do, your job should never be your actual job. I work for Oxford House, but I can tell you what, that I could probably do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if my boss would let me, just because I enjoy what this thing represents. So if you're in a position, do it for what you love. Your job should never feel like a job. That's the moral. Your job should never feel like a job.
Kevin from Kansas. I just had a general question. how much do y'all, anybody on the panel, how much do y'all feel like our past experiences help you out in the classroom, like with different discussions? Because I'm finding out my perspective on different things in the psychology field. My outlook is a whole lot different than this new generation that's coming through. I mean, when it comes to, I mean, our even our myths on our loyalty, the lies we grew up on, just from all the other standards and just the perspectives.
I mean, I mentioned in my presentation, I really, really do believe that what I experienced and what I learned, both in addiction, but certainly in recovery and in Oxford House, gave me a huge leg up when I went back to school. Like, really, really did. Just all that stuff about accountability and knowing yourself and like learning how to communicate better and learning how to take constructive criticism is, I mean, you know, just really made me a much better student.
I mean, because we just had a discussion the other day about, what was it, who gives it. Because it kind of shocked me. The little meme came up on Facebook. He said, raise your hand. How many don't give an F if anybody likes it? But we have to. That's a myth and a lie that we tell one another. We do have to worry about what the people say. But when we walk this Oxford thing, we have to worry about what people think about us because we're representing Oxford.
Oh, hey, I'm Jessica from Austin, Texas. Thank y'all for being here. Y'all were truly inspiring. I'm going back to nursing school in a month, and my goal is to, thank you. My goal is to either work in the mental health field or with addiction treatment. But I've been in the medical field before, and I know for licensing, they ask you if you struggled with addiction. Is that something that you should fully disclose? Because I know they monitor nurses with
Yes.
medication and everything. Yeah.
All right, so back in the day when I got that job in federal court, you know, I worked for a federal judge, and in the lofty halls of the federal court, and so I had to go through an FBI background check. You wanna know what they really cared about? Was if I had any secrets, because that's the kind of thing that, you know, Russians can exploit. But, I mean, the big thing that like, that really trips people up is not disclosing it. I mean, if you disclose it, like, yeah, sure, they can give you some grief, but in the end, I mean, they can't really exclude you. Because first of all, like, disclosing it gives you the opportunity to control the narrative, so you get to tell it from your perspective, and they don't get the report or whatever that just says all the felonies and then they fill in the blanks, you know, based on the fact that, like, first of all, you didn't disclose it, and second of all, like, you know, where you were at when you were committing all those felonies. But instead, you know, you get to control the narrative from the perspective of where you're at now. So that's powerful. And, you know, just like the FBI's philosophy, if, you know, something can't be held against you if it's not a secret, right? If it's out in the open and stuff. Yeah, and I also know that, I don't know how long it will have been by the time that you get admitted, but or I don't know what they call it for the nurses, but get your pen or whatever. I don't know. My sister just became a nurse, so maybe I should know. But yeah, I know that, like, you know, my mother-in-law, it had been 10 years since she got a DUI or something, and they sent her a letter back that said, like, we want more information about this, and then she just didn't send them more information about it, and then they just licensed her. So, I don't know. It all depends, but like I said, if you're real and you're right, I think you will prevail in the end.
I got something to say real quick. I worked as a paramedic for 10 years, and we had state and national
Do you mind doing it to the mic?
registrations.
Do you mind doing it to the mic, just because they're recording?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my name's Eric. I'm from Medford, Oregon. I had a state and national registrations for my paramedic degree, and I know that there are specific clauses that forbid you from working as a paramedic if you're a felon for certain felonies that you get. So you might want to look at the rules and regulations before you commit to one certain sector in the, in the nursing industry, because there are certain felonies that will keep you from getting your license. And they're not going to tell you that until after you go to school and get your degree. And then they're like, oh, well, sorry about your luck, but you can't do this. So my advice would be to read up on everything before you commit to one certain area.
And briefly, I have something to add as well. I don't know in your state, but I know in my state, South Carolina, I'm on a lot of coalitions and some boards, and there's something called RPP, Recovering Professionals Program. So I'm assuming every state has that. That's for doctors, nurses, anybody in the medical profession that has struggled, with addiction and has found recovery. So, and then there's also a Lawyers Helping Lawyers. We've gotten a few Oxford House residents in from that program that are lawyers in early recovery. So while there are definitely laws, that might stop you, there's also advocacy initiatives for certain professional programs. So I encourage you not to give up and to look into those before you finish your degree. So, next question.
Yeah, I'm William Bowman, and I'm in the process of applying to grad school. And things were going really cool until I had to get letters of recommendation. And like other addicts and alcoholics, I burned all my bridges. And the letters that I had in 2014 are no longer valid. So not having any really good contacts for like the last 9 months of my recovery, what would be your advice as far as obtaining letters of recommendation to go to grad school?
Do you have an outreach worker or someone that you work close with?
Yeah.
They may can help you.
Your advisors, or your advisors, your people on your student councils, and different things like that. 'Cause they just showed us a sheet the other day that mapped out like how to get in tune with your network, with the people on campus, your advisors, teachers. Because over the course of your time there, the relationship you build with the student body and your teachers and stuff, those go in your your letters of recommendation. So.
And then also doing volunteer work in the nonprofit, sector of your community. I mean, it doesn't even have to be recovery oriented. If you're doing volunteer work and getting involved in organizations, they could give you, that might be an avenue. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, good question though. Thank you. Next.
Yes, my name is Chelsea from Oklahoma, and I just started college 2 weeks ago.
Yay!
Thank you. I know that for a lot of people, their addiction really takes off in college. In fact, there was a girl I went to high school with that hit her professor with her car drunk driving and received a life sentence. My question is, I would really like to start an AA meeting in the college since there's not one. How do I make myself available to people who may be afraid to admit that they are an alcoholic or alcoholics within the college without crossing a line, I guess?
I think that might be a Scott question.
Attraction rather than promotion, really. I mean, so we had that Collegiate Recovery Center when I was on campus. I mean, 99% of the calls that we got were like, referrals from some professor about some student with a drinking problem who just didn't want to stop. And I mean, you can make them come or whatever. Wound up being that we just had like a separate program for that. AA is all about attraction rather than promotion, and not people who have to be there. I mean, sure, some very ill-informed judges out there will sentence people to AA, but I mean, I haven't seen that bear fruit very often. So I think maybe just worry less about that and worry more about
finding the people who are in recovery or who want to be, or genuinely curious about it, and just help them that way.
Okay, thank you.
I was just going to add to that. First of all, in looking up all that research, I found one that said 15% of all undergraduates qualify for substance use disorder. So, yeah, there's a lot of people out there going to college that are using excessively.
I suppose recovering out loud could be.
Yeah, well, and I would check with student health. I know someone really well that's an undergraduate advisor at a university, and it is shocking how often she is dealing with undergrads in crises because of addiction and, mental health issues. But student health and just the campus undergraduate advisors is probably a place to start and say, hey, I'd really like to do this, and,
Hey, how's it going?
Doing well.
Hey, good. I'm Brian, Oxford House, Florida, Chapter 6.
Nice.
So 2018, I got my recovery coach. So I became a state certified recovery coach. And that kind of made me want to move to doing social work. Maybe now in my mind, I'm kind of thinking, do I want to do CAC 1, CAC 2, CAC 3, or do I want to do an LAN? Or, what do I want to go to school for? And you say shoot for the stars. 2010, I got my GED. Now, I'm going back in 2018 when I went back to school and I got the state certification. It's the first schooling I've done since then. I'd love to work for the FBI. Now, 3-time felon, could that happen? Social work, I'm 41, so I really related to what you had to say. Do you know any resources that would allow you to, that could kind of like outline what you can and cannot do? With what limitations is, I have a lot of drug charges. So,
If you want to work for the FBI, what's stopping you?
that would be a dream. I would love to profile.
But what's stopping you?
I've my felonies.
This is stopping you. Your mind is stopping you.
Yeah.
Because the FBI hires felons all the time.
Really? Very
Come on,
cool.
man. They do. Look at those people, cyber criminals.
Sure. Well, that's what we were talking on the way up. I said, what a great.
What's to stop you from doing it except your own limitation in life?
Okay.
If you limit yourself, then you're going to continue to do it. The one thing that I can tell you when I got out of prison is that I learned a saying that when one door closes, there's a window that's open.
I like that.
And if you sneak through that window,
yeah, awesome.
Just continue to do the best. Well, the one thing that I always strived for was to be the best.
Sure.
Part of my character defect is that I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And I choose to, put perfection at all cost, and I will continue to do that. I was a highly regarded chef, and perfection is what it was about. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of helped fuel my OCD for perfection and stuff like that. But
sure,
if you want to limit yourself, then you're going to get just what you limit yourself to.
Correct.
If you want to shoot and rise up, then you're going to go wherever you want to go to.
Awesome.
Because you can be one of those people that's on there and say, hey, look, I know what this person's going through. They ask people to profile all the time. So.
Yeah, no, it's I see it. I guess the question more was just, is there a generic place you can go or kind of something you can put into a computer to say, okay, I have these amount of charges, because there's definitely limitations to that.
Nobody is going to give you permission. If you ask for permission, they're going to tell you no.
Sure.
Like very often. I had a kid, his calling was to be a CPA, a certified public accountant for some reason. And I gave him the same advice I gave you. And so he is doing that now. When it came time for him to apply for the board, he'd went and got some advice from some lawyer who's like, a friend of an uncle or something. And like he called me like really upset, and he showed me the analysis that this lawyer had given him that said that he couldn't be a certified public accountant. And, I don't know that area of the law, but as a lawyer, I can tell shoddy work product when I see it. So like I read through it and asked him some questions about it. And I said, I wouldn't rely on this. Why don't you talk to my lawyer who's, a bulldog. And, and so I sent him over there, I gave him a free evaluation. And, it turns out that he could be a certified public accountant, and that was bad advice. So I think a lot of times, like, I mean, just people don't understand recovery out there, you know? You gotta get in it, like, you just gotta have, and like I said at the beginning, this is maybe some reckless advice, but you might, so you just gotta have some faith, because nobody's gonna give you permission to go do what you wanna do, but I think you should do it.
So we're about out of time. I thank everyone for attending and some really powerful questions. And I'm just going to leave you with this. What is meant for you is not going to miss you. Just put in the footwork. So thank you so much.